So forgive me, it's been a few days since the Super Bowl, but I had to get my thoughts out on the playoffs in general. All my thoughts on what inevitably happened. And honestly, I can't say I'm shocked. I still had the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. Despite all this, I thought they kind of lucked out with their playoff matchups. Obviously, the Bills were very impressive in the second half of the year, and Josh Allen is an incredible quarterback. And you knew that Allen and Mahomes matchup was going to be insane, but Josh Allen made one mistake, really one mistake, and it kind of cost him. Kind of cost him at the end. You can't make those mistakes with Pat Mahomes, and that's what we learned throughout all of this. Is that Patrick Mahomes? You cannot leave him a window. You have to open. You have to shut that window, no matter what. And when I was watching the 49ers game, when I was watching the Super Bowl, all I could help but see was, wow, San Francisco is leaving such a wide open window for Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, their defense, Andy Reid to come back and win this game. Kyle Shanahan is leaving them opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. Just over and over again. Now, I'm not going to criticize Kyle Shanahan as much as some other people are for the overtime rules. The fact that he decided to defer the kick, because quite frankly, I wasn't thinking that. I didn't think that was such a bad decision at the time. It ended up being a bad decision. I think it woke up a bunch of football fans that, hey, I think in the future they're going to look to defer. Then again, I'm not an NFL coach. So, you know, I'm talking about it and I'm telling you my honest opinion and the fact that I didn't have an issue with Shanahan deferring. I thought, hey, go get 7 on the board, and then you live with the results. The problem is they didn't get 7 on the board. And honestly, they could have been 3 and out instantly if it wasn't for that dumb holding penalty. Not to say the call was dumb. It was dumb on the Kansas City Chiefs part, which, by the way, I just would like to say, I found it very strange that the officiating I had no issues with the officiating whatsoever. I mean, how many times can we say that as football fans? In the Super Bowl, I had zero issues with the officiating. Kansas City won. Patrick Mahomes, who's known to get every single call imaginable, I still didn't have an issue. They won. They won. There was no call that I heavily disagreed with. I'm sure there were people who had issues with some at some point, but my family never screamed at the officials, ever. We screamed at the classic bad luck the 49ers had with, of course, the injury and as well as the ball hitting the return team's ankle or the calf or whatever. And that whole thing, you can point to that, and if you're Kyle Shanahan, you can point to that, point to that, point to that. But I look at McCaffrey's fumble in the first drive after what looked like a good drive. I looked at the blocked extra point. Just simple things like that. If they just executed on those plays, you would have been in a way better position. And McCaffrey was brilliant after that fumble, but that one fumble haunted them. It haunted them. They had a good drive in overtime, but it led to a field goal. And those are the things that you can't do when you're going against an all-time great like Patrick Mahomes, who has solidified himself, in my opinion, as the second greatest quarterback of all time. I mean, I'm sure we're going to have debates, and obviously he's so young. The Brady stuff is a little much for me. Not a little, definitely a lot. Tom Brady played a ton of years, obviously. He retired at age 45. He had this incredible arc to his career after winning 3 Super Bowls to start and then winning 4 in the second half, kind of like in his late 30s to early 40s. It's just it's insane what happened with Brady. So I'm not going to sit here and overreact, but I'm going to tell you that Patrick Mahomes is the first ballot Hall of Famer if he retired today. He's an all-time great quarterback if he retired today. There is not many players out there that I can guarantee that they're going to get the job done at the end of the game. I like, the point is, like, terrified if I was the opposing team and I had to go against this guy. Brady's one of those, but Mahomes is another. I'm not sure you felt that way about Peyton Manning. I'm just not sure you felt those things, those feelings that you were just terrified with the ball in their hands at the end of games. I just don't. Patrick Mahomes, despite the struggles of Kansas City this year, the fact that the receivers couldn't catch anything, despite all their struggles, the fact that, and even at the end of the day, they were still 11-6. It wasn't even like the worst thing in the world. But Patrick Mahomes is a player that when we saw him coming up, we're like, this guy clearly has potential. Clearly has potential. And when you look at it, like the fact that his few playoff losses are to Tom Brady twice and Joe Burrow, not bad. It's not bad. He's not going to win the Super Bowl every year, right? He's not going to get to the Super Bowl every year. But you can guarantee if he's on your team, you got a shot because he had relatively no targets this year. Just none, it seemed like. And the fact that he was still able to carry this Chiefs team to a Super Bowl win is insane. And now they're going to be in consideration. You have to take them seriously next year to possibly being the only team in NFL history to three-peat. You have to take that seriously because he won with no receivers. Imagine they got him a target that other than Travis Kelce. That defense was really good. And Mahomes is a young dude, man. It's hard to win in the NFL. And this guy, what he does at the end of games is absolutely ridiculous. It's just absolutely insane. So there was just to talk about the 49ers side of things. I feel bad for Kyle Shanahan because this guy's not only lost to him twice, but he's had so many close calls. I think he's an outstanding coach and he just can't seem to get over the hump. And this was a game that was very winnable for San Francisco. This Chiefs team is the worst Chiefs team in a while. Even better than some of those teams that lost in the AFC Championship and lost in the playoffs. I mean, like this team, not many people really thought this was the year Kansas City was like, no, they're not going. They're not going this year. Not going this year. And they did. And Shanahan had a real opportunity. I thought Purdy was pretty good. People weren't, obviously he didn't play incredible. But them mentioning that even kind of bothers me because I was very impressed with Brock Purdy in this game. Very impressed. He's just not Patrick Mahomes. And sometimes it comes down to that stuff. It comes down to the McCaffrey fumble. It comes down to the missed extra point, the blocked extra point. It comes down to not scoring a touchdown at the end in overtime. It comes down to not pouring it on when Kansas City was going 3-and-out all the time in the first half. Like, you got to take advantage of those opportunities. And Shanahan's going to get blamed because of the overtime, but he better learn his lesson now. I don't look at it as like, oh, they lost this game because of Kyle Shanahan. They lost this game because I thought he had huge onions, huge balls, huge stones to even go for it. Was it 4th and 4? I think it was 4th and 4 in the fourth quarter, and they got it. I mean, that was incredible. And so, then that's something that you think a coach is an idiot for doing if they don't get it, and a coach is a genius if they do get it. Like, you got to have real stones for that, and he did that. And it just seemed like a game that the whole time I was watching it, I was like, San Francisco's got to execute better offensively, or they're not going to win this game. That's exactly what happened. They couldn't get the touchdowns when they needed touchdowns. They couldn't get the extra point when they need the extra point. They got that 4th down, which is huge, but that's what it comes down to. They couldn't hold on to the ball with momentum. That was a great opening drive. They scored 7 on that opening drive. It would have been great. But McCaffrey lost it. McCaffrey, a guy who never loses the football, loses it. I mean, it's a tough loss, and I can't look at them being like, oh, it's this person's fault, this person's fault. It was I struggle to say well-played game because it was really a mess in the first 3 quarters, but it turned into a very exciting game. Very sloppy, though. Very sloppy. But just from 2 really good competitive teams, we got a very entertaining Super Bowl. And it's not often where you see a Super Bowl go to overtime. And with the new rules, it made it even more a little exciting, although I don't really like, Tiki Barber mentioned this on The Fan, he doesn't like that the clock literally doesn't matter in overtime. I don't really like that either, but I do like that they get another chance at it. It can't be always perfect. You can't. You're always People are always going to have issues with everything. But I was a really fun Super Bowl, despite how kind of boring it was in the first three quarters, just from a play standpoint. Usher at halftime. My family actually was not a fan of Usher's halftime performance. I think they were expecting some of the more poppy songs that came out in like 2010. I thought it was pretty good. I thought he was pretty good. I thought his dancing was great. And yeah, not much really else to say. I thought it was pretty good. I thought his dancing was pretty incredible. I would have liked to have seen maybe a few more songs that maybe, you know, that he's pretty good at that I would have liked to have seen, but or him open with another song than he did. And but it was really fun, really fun. The whole thing. Family had a bunch of food. It was great. My brother cooked. My brother's an insane cook. I've mentioned that in the pod before. It was really just Super Bowl's always great, and it's really depressing that the Super Bowl ends and then there's no football. It's really depressing, and football's really fun. It's like in our lives from September to February, and then it's just gone. And you got to move on.